Guys, we are here with the famous Sadie Bruins, and we have just had such a great time having her here in Kauai, and she's an awesome addition to the YWAM team, and I am excited for you guys to hear her testimony. So take it away.
Yeah. Okay, so I think I'll start with I grew up in a Christian home and my parents have such a deep faith. They met in a Bible study. And that was kind of like my role model for my whole life. Um, but I really did not like going to church. And we went every Sunday. We never missed a Sunday. Um, but for some reason I just didn't like it. And so that's kind of like what showed me what faith is. I accepted Jesus into my heart when I was 4 years old, and I didn't know what it meant. I got baptized at 10 years old. I also didn't know what that meant. Um, and so that's just like what started me just knowing about Jesus, but not really knowing what a relationship with the Lord looks like. And yeah, so as I grew up, I started going to a Christian summer camp called New Life Ranch, which was just the best thing for me. I'm from Oklahoma, by the way, and it was just it's just a beautiful place, and there were so many great people, and it just was always a place that I felt safe. And yeah, so I think I was in this position of knowing who Jesus was, and I knew that I accepted the Lord into my heart. When like so many of my friends at camp for years, like I would go to camp and people again and again I would meet that didn't know who Jesus was. And I was like, what's this? Like I just didn't understand that this wasn't a thing that people actually knew. Um, and so when they would accept Jesus into their heart, it was always like a big deal. And I was like, well, why isn't it a big deal for me? I did it at 4. And, it's not like I just didn't understand really what that meant because it was just like that phrase, accept Jesus into your heart. And I had just heard it my whole life. Um, and so I actually one day, because I had been going to that camp for like 3 years at this point, and then in seventh grade, I remember we were worshiping, and it was on the last night of camp, and we always do this big worship night, and everyone is just breaking down in tears, and I always had been so confused by that. I was like, why would people break down in tears, you know? Um, but this night I finally understood it, and I just remember um, asking or like kind of thinking about Jesus dying on the cross for us. And, we had been learning about that the whole week. And so I was just thinking about the things that we've been learning and how sacrificial the love of Jesus Christ is. Um, and so I just realized I didn't deserve that. And it just made me break down in tears. Like, why would Jesus go through this for us? And I honestly think a lot of Christians have that moment where they realize how great that love has to be for us to die like that. Um, but after that summer, again, like I just didn't take anything away from that. I just I just knew that Jesus loved me. And so that was a good start, but it it really like it needed some discipleship. Um and so yeah, I think that I went to a Christian school my whole life. And so I think that for me, something that I thought was just that people would disciple me in school, maybe. Um, or even at summer camp every year, I would just get discipled through that. Um, but that's why I think youth group is so important because I didn't ever go to that. And so I didn't really know anything about Jesus and like a relationship with him. Um, and so, yeah, I went to a Christian school. As I entered high school, I was, I don't know, I just was very quiet, I was very insecure. Um, I didn't really have that many friends, and these were people that I had known my whole life. So I guess that was pretty hard for me, because it was rejection. It was like willingly rejecting me, because I had to be around them every day. Um, and so I had a class of 30 people, and it was very small, and I felt just like an outsider. Um, and so at some point, I think it was my junior year, I started doing really good. And I started making all these friends. I got a boyfriend. This is like the first time I'd ever liked a boy or gotten a boyfriend or anything. So this was like a big deal. Um, and that's actually like a big part of my testimony. So I had all these friends. Everything seemed really good, but secretly like this boyfriend was just kind of revealing me to like what the real world looked like. Um and just showing me like what teenagers typically do that is just like worldly things. And I wasn't partying. I didn't really understand, like I was in a bubble at my Christian school. So I didn't know a lot of things, but there was just a lot of like uh sexual intimacy that was going on with this boy, and it was just um it was really corrupting me, and it really depressed me. It really made me think like, who am I? And honestly, I put my identity in it, because I thought my identity was just to be with this boy, which is kind of crazy. But anyways, uh so I was dating him, and I had these friends, and everything seemed to be really good. Um and then I went to camp for 4 weeks. I had done this thing called leadership development, which was just a program where like they for the first year, it's like the summer before your sophomore year, and you're there for 2 weeks, and you're like helping out with the camp. And it's honestly just like literally bringing you up as someone who can one day eventually be able to be a counselor for kids. Um, and so I went to camp every summer, and honestly, I think I faked a lot of things so that I could look like this perfect Christian, just like everyone else. Um, and so yeah, this that summer I went there for 4 weeks, and this was the last stage of leadership development. And I was basically playing counselor. I was like a counselor in training, but I still had my own counselor. I still had my group of people that was also in training. And so we would meet every day, and it was really good. It was really growing, and I really got discipled in that. And so it started like giving me this guilt of like, hey, maybe this guy that I'm dating isn't so good. And giving me this guilt of like, I was kind of putting all my identity, all my worth, and all my effort into the people around me, like my friendships. And like, it was just so hard to keep up. Like, there was just so many people I wanted to please. And because I thought that like if they didn't like me, then that's it. I'm rejected. And then I didn't have any worth. Um and so yeah, I talked to some people about it. I talked to my counselor. She told me to talk to the guy I was dating about it. And then I talked to one of my friends that said, if you don't think you can break up with him, you have to ask God, hey Lord, like he's gonna have to break up with me. And I prayed that prayer. I thought like that's not gonna happen. And I at this point I honestly was never hearing, like I didn't hear from the Lord because I didn't know what his voice sounded like. Um and I never read my Bible, like any of this. I was very clueless on what it looked like to be in a relationship with the Lord still. And this was right before my senior year. Um and so I yeah, I prayed that prayer, and then by the grace of God, like maybe 3 weeks later, he broke up with me. And it was very sudden. And so, since it was so sudden, it made me actually reject God. I was like, why would you do this to me? I thought you were supporting me. I thought you wanted me to be happy. Um, and after that, too, I was just angry. I was angry at everyone. I was bitter. Um, and so I lost all my friends too because I was just mean to them. Um, and I was just angry at them. And I really just was not reflecting the Lord at all. Um, and so that was hard. And so then after that, I took like every opportunity I could to try and find love somewhere else. Um, and it was only ever like in relationships, but it was like so often. So it would just be like one guy after the other, or like one friendship after the other too. And it was just like no one, it felt like no one was sticking. It was so weird. Like it just was like I didn't have anyone I could fully rely on when I felt like I've kind of felt like this my whole life. Like, so after getting those friendships during my junior year and then just losing them, this was like crazy fast that I was losing these people. And just like it was just like a different kind of thing. But yeah, it was very sudden, all these people just going out of my life. I even had this friend that my senior year, he actually took his own life. And that was really hard because I just I start questioning like what happens after life. Um and yeah, it was just all this stuff that was just making me question the Lord's faithfulness to me. Um and so I also had a lot of health problems, and I was in the hospital for 4 days um because I went septic because I had surgery on my sinuses because I kept getting sinus infections for some reason. And then I had surgery for it. And then that made me septic because it got infected. And it was just like everything was going wrong. And this was the hardest part, was that I was promised like a perfect senior year. Um, and so I had no friends. I had poor health. I was barely at school. I barely graduated. And um, I just didn't know what to do. I was lost. Um, so, anyways, after school, after I graduated, I went to camp, and I didn't think I would be able to because I had had such poor health. Um, but I went to camp, and I was a volunteer, and I was a counselor. And I remember the last night of my staff training at camp, I was worshiping with everyone, and we were like around the lake because there's a lake at my camp, and there was this fire like by the lake. And we're all around it, and I just remember having this vision from the Lord. And basically my eyes were closed, but I could see everyone around me and like the fire. um but then everyone sat down, and the fire like dimmed, and then there was a spotlight on the lake, and there was Jesus just right there. And he didn't have a face. He had like light coming through his face. Um, and he stuck out his hand to me. He was like, "Take my hand." So I walked with him on the water, and he said to me, um, like, "I will guide you." And then it reminded me of Peter walking on the water with Jesus and looking back at the ship and then always falling whenever he thought about it, like the people on the ship. And so whenever I thought about my year and how angry I was at God, I fell into the water. And then he picked me back up, and then we keep walking. And it was so powerful, and it led me to be able to give my life to Jesus again, like surrender it again, because I knew that this was from the Lord. It was something that I had never seen before, and I knew that Jesus had to encounter me for me to be able to trust in him, because I just was so lost, and I just had so many lies around me and so much that was like filling my mind with lies, and I just needed truth. And I finally saw truth in that moment. And so, yeah, I always used to think that Jesus had abandoned me my senior year, but the truth is that he was always there. And actually, ever since being in YWAM, he's had like these moments where he's revealed to me moments where I was lost, and I was just so upset and I was hurting, and he was just right there next to me. Um, and so there's this verse I love, and it's Psalm 73, and I feel like it kind of describes my testimony in like a shorter version. And so it is Psalm 73, verse 23 through 26. And it is, nevertheless, I will be continuously with you. Wait. Nevertheless, I am continuously with you. You hold my right hand, you guide me with your counsel, and afterwards you will lead me into glory. Who am I in heaven but you? And there is nothing I desire on this earth besides you. My heart and my flesh may fail me, but you are my strength and my portion forever. And yeah, that's it.
Thank you for sharing. Something that I was thinking about is you talked about how at 4 years old you like either said the salvation prayer or accepted Jesus into your heart. Do you think that was um, the moment in which you actually gave yourself over to God, or that happened later?
Yeah, I think that happened later.
Hmm.
Um, because I was just so young that I don't even remember it. And um I think that happened this past summer, because this was recent that I had this vision from the Lord. Because right after that, I gave my life to Christ again. Like, I fully surrendered it. Um and I never knew what that had meant before, but at this point I was at camp, and I had so many people pouring into me and supporting me for that decision. And so it was really a beautiful thing to just be able to be around other believers while I was making that choice.
Yeah.
Um,
Something that struck me was the kind of awareness when it came to the lack of discipleship in your life.
mm,
And when it was present, how much of a change it made for you.
yeah.
What is something that you would say to Christian leaders and churches when it comes to the importance of discipleship?
Mm, yeah. I think for me at camp, it was a really big thing to be heard. And um, I just wanted someone to talk to, and I wanted like a friend. And I wanted specifically a friend that could lead me well, and um, just kind of show me what it looked like to be a Christian, because I didn't know. Um, I knew like the outline, and I knew just kind of like we were supposed to do certain things. I knew the religion aspect of it, but I didn't know the relationship aspect of it. And I think that was something that I sought out and I needed the most. And so probably just talking a lot about relationship, and showing why we do the religious things that we do. And it's because we love Jesus just as much as he loves us. And so we want to do those things for him. Um, and for me, I've just always been a person that's like, oh, if I don't understand it, why would I do it? And so I was just always told my whole life to read the Bible, to pray, but I didn't want to do it because I didn't know why. And so I think, yeah, it's just like important to describe the heart behind that, but also um, emphasize relationship.
Mm. Last question. You talked about how your parents were deep in the faith and strong in the faith.
Mhm.
Do you feel like they are surprised by your testimony, or when it comes to your guys' relationship, do you feel like that they walked alongside you through through your hardships, or they were just missing it?
Yeah. Um, my senior year, they were there for me for sure. But this is kind of hard because I was really pushing away my mom specifically because I just felt, I don't know, I think that the devil tried to turn like her love for me into something that was bad in my mind. Like she was like nagging me, or like almost like keeping me in a box and like smothering me with her love. But like she was actually, it was just love. But it felt like, I don't know, it felt like boundaries. Um and since then our relationship has been great. Ever since I went to camp and discovered like that she actually loves me. Um and she was just trying to love me and trying to be there for me, but I was just pushing her away. And so, yeah, they were definitely there for me. I mean, I was sick so many times during my senior year. I was like fully like throwing up. Like I had a 104 fever at one point. Um, I had the flu like 4 times. I had mono. Um, and this was all like in the span of 8 months. And my mom, every time I was sick, would sleep in my room with me, would like she would wipe throw up out of my hair. Like it was crazy. And like until coming to YWAM, I didn't understand that people don't have that. And so it's so important. It's so important to appreciate your parents because they're trying.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really appreciate your testimony and the power of it, and I'm so excited to share it with others. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.